Hello and welcome to episode 43 of our Timberborn Update 6 Waterbeavers here. Cycle 47, day 16, 7.7 days left in our bad tide. And we've made a lot of good progress the last few episodes, but as you know, things do take time, and they do take a very long time. But we're in a good spot with water now. We have 12,000 stored. We have, well, if you count in the pumps and all the other buildings and all that, we have capacity to go up to, if you include the capacity of the pumps, approximately 14,000. We have some other liquids as well. Starting to get more spicy sodas produced as we have additional brambles ready for harvesting, so on and so forth. Food's been pretty stable for a while, but definitely still has room for improvement. And we've made some nice progress towards some late game buildings. But, like I said, still plenty more to get done. The ENS currently is working on the Masters in Metallurgy, and is in massive need of a bunch of methane, and to a lesser degree some paper, and especially a whole lot of scrap metal. And we've been working on that for a while. We've been making small improvements in our production of various things over here in the Downriver District, formerly known as District Number 2. We do have 7 of these, and an 8th one right here producing scrap metal as they are able to be supplied. And I think it would be a smart idea for us to just make a few quick, simple fixes here. Starting with a ladder here to also replace this bit here. Actually, you know what? Let's not put this here. Let's put this one because of how this is set up. Save ourselves a little bit of metal. Spiral staircase, bet you couldn't have seen that one coming. But we need to be able to access the bottom level here from these guys, and then if and when we stack this, we will need to put a ladder on this side to go a little bit higher up, but we don't need to get that twisted back and forth, whatever you want to call it. So, we're missing a lot of coal because we just go through so much of it because of everything we're trying to produce here. And while we do have a mechanical drill, it only has so much capacity for dirt to escape. Escape, I say, probably should have said get consumed somewhere else. But now I have this image of just clumps of dirt fleeing the mechanical drill. Anyway, I digress. We need to have something to do with all of the dirt. And there's a couple things we can do with that. We can either store it, we can export it to the other district, we can create new additional terrain, or we can go into our industrial buildings, build a clay pit, and start turning it into gold, which I think is probably the more fun option. So what we'll need to do, if we're going to do that, is find a few places along the shoreline here that can actually accept a clay pit. Remember, it has to be built on the ground, and it will only work in clean water. So, from an objective point of view, it makes the most sense to put a clay pit in a position that is actually going to be able to work continuously. And we have all this space right here that would not be a bad place for that to go. Since it has to go on the ground only, though, that's going to make it a big challenge because this Lido here is on top of platforms. And this flag right here is what's connected to this water cannon. Well, the water cannon's currently turned off, so I can't build anything here. And there's not really any point anywhere in this entire little mini reservoir that is arranged correctly for us to place one of those clay pits. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this pit tank out, and instead we'll need to move in some sort of other water storage somewhere else. We've got a lot of places that can go. Remember, we don't need to have access down here to the nasty water because we're not really planning on building anything else right here right now. So what I will do here is I'll take this out. This dirt storage is probably fine to have over here for reasons we're about to discuss. And this medium pile of dirt, like I just said, is important, but I think what's going to be easier for us to do is to take this out, take these cabbages along this edge out, which is going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if I blast these 3 away, or if I don't blast those 3 away, then I can just put one on the edge here. But my thinking with that is this. Gotta have somewhere to put a clay pit, even if it doesn't work 100% of the time. Just having it is going to be good enough, and then we can try to figure out a way to either increase the size of this reservoir, which I don't know if that's a great idea or not, or we can try to prevent bad water from coming through here, which is going to be part of the, you know, long-term goal of diverting up here and making sure that some of these bad water sources are capped with the nuclear power plants, so on and so forth. So this is not super close to the mechanical drills, but it's close enough where it's going to be easy for us to have something, which is going to be better than nothing, and that's just what we're going to have to do at this point in time. What City Planner plays always say, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Well, that is my goal here. So, I would like to blast these 3 out, put in 2 of those, the clay pits, and just move on from there. So if this gets to be turned into a little higher priority there, we can blast these out. I will have to wait for that cabbage to go away before that can be a thing. But at that point, we're going to be in pretty good shape, and then we can also build a storage for dirt. I was thinking about taking this pit tank out and then putting in additional, you know, pieces of land to facilitate a clay pit being placed. But this is going to be a little bit faster, and will guarantee that we're using some dirt at all times. Just have to wait. So let's get this on triple speed. Making very nice quick work of this. So I will also need to take out at least, I believe, these 3 cabbages here. I'm going to take this one out also because it's going to make it just a little bit easier for us to have this laid out in a logical fashion. We do have to have access to this one and then this one to be able to connect to 2 of those things. Just have to let it be what it's going to be. So they should be able to come in here at some point when we have enough explosives. I think we have a whole lot asked to be placed across the map, so I'm going to super prioritize these guys and let them get to what they're going to get to. Let's plant this cabbage here so we don't lose too much. And come over here where we have a giant berry tank that is just about full, actually. Pretty exciting stuff. But like we were saying earlier, we have a big coal shortage. And right now this is getting quartz, which we do need, but we're not going to need forever. So actually the amount of quartz we have now is going to be enough to complete our research. So let's swap this over to coal. That should help solve our problem. This is already doing coal, but it only has 3 workers in it. We're working on fixing the worker problem. That's, you know, don't make me say it. You already know. It is one of those things. So I guess we can leave that alone for the time being and then move to talk about some other stuff. We did expand substantially our domesticated bramble production within the last couple of episodes, but we're still using basically everything that we're making here, which means these guys in the wood felling planification lodge probably could use a little bit of help. But for the time being, things are looking okay, so I don't want to focus on that quite yet. Instead, let's go over here. We have 2 alchemists currently operating, making basic balm. I'm going to close one more of these down so we just have a single one, which is going to keep it possible for us to, you know, treat the minor burns by producing the balm, but is also going to not choke all of our supply lines by requiring the use of all of this stuff. And it all stacks, right? You have to have something that you can use. But you can't let everything just get completely insane, or else bad stuff's going to happen. And I'm reminded, since we are over here, okay, first of all, we didn't turn off any of these pumps, and now it's completely empty, so is what it is. I guess I made that choice, now I'm going to have to deal with it. I think these sunflowers are going to be okay. They got about another 8 days, but we have over here an artist lodge and a copyist lodge that are paused because they can't really do anything. But we have blueprints that need to have somewhere to go. Floodgate Dam blueprint and a balloon trader landing pad blueprint. These aren't fancified, and we do have duplicates of those, but at some point we're going to have to do something with them. Just want to make sure we don't forget about that. And somebody left a comment that said, I have additional ENS blueprints, and I don't remember that. So if that is actually the case, that would be really, really helpful, because we could start making some more stuff. And yeah, I've got two fancy architectural, 2 fancy mechanical. Okay, well, that's exciting. Granted, the ENS is very, very expensive to build, and we would have to make a whole bunch of library books, so on and so forth. But that's tremendous news, because as we get further into this, I say in episode 43, like we're starting out now. We're going to need to make robotics controllers and microprocessors and all that so we can have hauling bots, and it only makes one at a time. So that is going to be a thing we'll have to worry about at that point in time. Not quite yet, but now that I know / have been reminded that I have multiple ENS blueprints available, that's really going to make things a whole lot better later on. Okay, these berries are going to be okay. I obviously can't open this for reasons because it is poison. The library currently making science. I got 5,200 science. I think we can cool it on the science production. Let's take all but one beaver out of the library for working purposes. We can have more working as haulers and other things that we may want to get going soon. And we can still have the one do it just so we have some sort of flow, but 5,200 science for right now is probably fine. Plenty of other concerns that we probably should be, well, concerned with that we'll get to. But I want to check and see. Okay, we have a single dynamite here. I am going to detonate that because it's going to allow us to build a clay pit, even though we can't use it yet. Set this to gold. And then what we'll need to do is build some storage closer to this for both dirt and gold. So you might notice that we do have a decent amount of food in this district. Not ideal, but enough for me to feel okay just removing a little bit of this so we can have storage for gold and dirt. Now gold dust, I don't remember where it goes. Looks like it goes in a pile. So both of these things go in piles. Our available pile sizes: large industrial variety, large size, which is the same footprint but you can't stack, and then we have the 2x2 medium that we used forever. I think it would be probably a mistake to remove a bunch of cabbage. And for some reason I also forgot that I can have stuff on this side. So count that as a personal failing of myself and nothing else, I guess. Actually, before I do that, I need to make sure they can't actually get over here. Let's just disconnect that to be safe. I don't think they have any further access to get in here, but yeah, I didn't want to find out the hard way. So what we're going to do here is... Actually, that should probably be on the top. Dirt. Gold dust. Move these three out of the way, and I guess replant these cabbages there. That's going to make it a little bit easier for them to, you know, do literally anything with this. And we can move on again. Things just taking time. Plenty more to discuss, and I do mean plenty more. We've got this large farmhouse here that only has 4 workers in it. And the reason I haven't put more workers in it is because there's really not that much that they can do, save for monitoring the lotuses, or I guess the nenuphars, because they cut them out just as soon as they possibly can, or anything over here. And a couple of you have cited that this might be a waste of a large farmhouse, or we're not using it to its full potential, and I'm tempted to agree. I would love to have additional space for nenuphars here, but this is already basically as far out as the large farmhouse can go. I am going to still, you know, get rid of this stuff. Obviously, I'd like them to be able to continue putting these dirt blocks in, like I said, so we can continue using some dirt, so I don't want to detonate it yet, but the thought is there. We need to maybe think about planting some nenuphars in this area here, which would require us to have a second large farmhouse. And our third district, the district in the corn, or district in the corner, if you prefer for the correct name, but this is really funny, so I want to leave it. We don't really have a great space to put a large farmhouse. It wouldn't be that hard to do it, but it would also add a substantial population boom without necessarily adding that many jobs that would objectively be needed. Right now, the balance in this district is pretty good. We've got 36 beavers living here. We have 34 workers, 1 vacancy, and 2 incapacitated. So it's pretty even. If I were to add a large farmhouse, it's going to add 12 inhabitants, no matter what. and only 8 jobs. So it would be a little bit lopsided, and we'd have to maybe do some other shuffling to add jobs that do not require having someone live there. And again, that's not super hard, but I don't want to expand these satellite districts too much too quickly if we can avoid it, because we're already stretched pretty thin on beaver labor as it is. And while our food and water situations are looking pretty okay, they're not perfect, and we're really not as good on water as some of you might think we are. We just happen to be able to store a lot at this exact moment in time. I also have 3 days left of this bad tide, and there's not a lot of water left in here, which, you know, isn't that big of a deal. These trees will last quite a while without water, and we're not growing any other sensitive crops in this area. But just be aware that it's not like a slam dunk solution. It's a good solution, but there's a lot of other stuff that has to get taken care of first. We also have a lot on my document for this episode. I'm trying my best to, you know, pay attention to everything. I see a spot here for another clay pit, so we'll do that. Get this connected here, and now we can start putting dirt, which is going to help, and we can move on to other stuff that we desperately need to take care of. But I can hear you saying you can't access the top. Well, that's what the ladder's for. And I guess I'll put that way. That should take care of that issue, and then we'll move on from there. Drill bit situation in this district for this drill is looking good. This one has 2 as well. And we are in the process, if I can click correctly, of making additional drill bits. Again, scrap metal being the big issue. But hopefully the work we've done the last couple episodes and this episode so far will really help to unclog our primitive smelters. Now let's go back real quick to the district in the corner over here, because I did just say a couple moments ago that I don't want to add too many slots for housing without having additional jobs. And I want to mention these fermentation barrels, while this doesn't say they work without haulers, they will, well, without workers, not without haulers, they will still ferment if the process is started and nobody works there. So we could, in theory, just add more fermentation barrels and have semi-permanent jobs that aren't necessarily, strictly speaking, necessary, but would still be very helpful to have a beaver in there at all times, and probably be okay. But remember, it's going to be one of those things that if we rush into it foolishly without considering stuff like, you know, tends to happen so often in these videos, all we're doing is just digging our own graves for later on. And we're out of water over here, by the way, in case you didn't see that. So this is going to be interesting, because now we have to import all of this for the next 2 days. They're not going to be satisfied just drinking lotus flower tea or any of that, so it's a whole thing. Let's take this out of triple speed. I feel like we're going too fast, and I haven't really done that much this episode. But we are ready for, in, I guess at this point, 3 days for stuff to get all the way over here. Start turning our dirt into gold. Or I guess I should say not turning it into gold. That would be alchemy. Which, last time I checked, is not a thing in Timberborn. If it is, please correct me. But we're finding gold in the dirt. It's probably the more correct way to say it. But Who's Splitting Hairs about a game in which bipedal beavers who can talk and use math and technology and have inherited the earth from the humans are doing all this stuff. Anyway, adding the 2 clay pits is going to add up to 8 jobs that we will need beavers for. And I know we just had this whole discussion for District 3 / the District in the Corn about this. But we take a look at this district. If I can click on the actual district center, we already have a big job deficit. So this is where we get into the discussion of what kind of buildings can we safely add here that would make sense. And this is where I have what may be a slightly unpopular idea. We talked about adding a large farmhouse in District 3 / the District in the Corner, and I gave reasons why that might not be a great idea for that district. But remember, it houses 12 beavers. We have a current deficit of 10, and I'm about to add up to 8 additional jobs. And the large farmhouse is a pretty efficient building for doing stuff like planting nenifars or harvesting other crops. And we do have crops being grown over here. We've got cabbages, we've got green peas, and we could very easily, if we really wanted to, blast this little thing right here a little bit deeper, you know, once we have additional explosives to play with, and we could grow nenifars here. In fact, this space right here, if we blast this down, would be a nearly perfect place to put such a large farmhouse and have easy access to almost all of the crops here. I think this is going to be our best possible option given everything else. Now, if this was all 2 blocks deep here in the big river, then this would be a no-brainer. But this also floods constantly with bad water. This doesn't, and it's small, but it can be bigger. We can also, you know, move the Lido to, say, the Poison River. This doesn't have to be a perfect thing forever. It just has to, you know, give beavers the buff when it can give beavers the buff, and then that's that. So I think that's what I'm going to commit to doing. If you don't like it, feel free to sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think. But for where we are now, I think this is going to be just fine. Plus, it's also going to reclaim a little bit of terrain here once I get everything else out. But I'm going to do this 4x4 just to start. And then, I suppose, if we feel like being smart about this, we may be able to make a pretty good difference here. Obviously, the poison coming in here, soiling half of the bottom, is going to make it harder to grow stuff, but it doesn't poison the water, which is the most important thing. And we can, in addition to using dirt to pan for gold, put additional terrain in this area and kind of isolate stuff, like we've done over in this area, as we've been able to do. I just have to be careful where I put this in so that they don't poison themselves. But I think that's going to be the smart choice. So let's do this here. I'll just build these, say, let's build those like that. And I need to turn this one around too so they can build all of this at once. As soon as this runs clean, I'm going to build a staircase again, and then they can just start dumping dirt into this. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. And we will slowly start increasing the distance between the bad water and the good water in hopes of reclaiming a little bit of that bottom space. I hope this makes sense. I hope I'm able to articulate. Let me get a drink of water real quick. And I hope that you understand what I'm trying to get to here. I think overall this is going to be a good idea. We just have to be smart about it. And I was going to talk about this earlier, but I forgot. The large water wheel blueprint has been researched for quite some time. It is finished, and they're gathering enough to start it again. We don't need them to start it again. Let's just set this back to gears. But we do have blueprints for the large water wheel, and that will need to be fancified. So we can turn our artist lodge over to large water wheel blueprints, turn that on, and at least start the process of, well, fancifying these. So we can use those large water wheels. Now this, for what we're doing right now, is fine. But we'd make a lot more power with the same amount of water flow if we used the large water wheels, which do require being 1 block higher than these guys. So if we made a 4-wide channel, which the amount of water flowing through this is not so much that 4-wide is going to be not enough. All we'd have to do is build some additional buildings here, or we could use terrain, which we got lots of dirt. It wouldn't be that hard. We could narrow this slowly and then generate a lot more power and make it a little easier to have other things accomplished as well. But you already know. We've been over this a billion times. I don't need to say it again. I'm going to detonate this. Let them come in and do the rest. I know this still needs to be taken care of, but that is not currently a huge problem. Just need to be smart about what we are trying to accomplish and let them have a reasonable ability to do that. This dirt pile has been cited several times in the comments as something that is necessary to be accessible. I disconnected it originally because I had to have this go this way. There's nothing over here now. So we don't have to worry about that being an issue. Let's put this back in just as a staircase, because we don't need to get back over here, and it's not going to be that hard to change it in the future if we do. And then let's disconnect this path here. Not that that's really going to matter, but they don't need to be walking in this mess. That's going to give us another dirt storage. Not that we really need it over here, but I know this is something that's bugged a lot of you for a while, and I don't want to just make you sit here and watch that for the rest of time. But now we're about done with our bad tide here. Just a short moment. Clean water will be flowing once again, and we'll be able to get a lot of exciting stuff accomplished. Slowly, one piece at a time. So now you can see that this is nice and clean because this water is no longer poison coming from this way. And we do have a little bit of clean water coming through here. Looks like this is fully ready to go, get raised back up. And then this, if I can click on the thing, be totally fine there. It's already clean coming out. Good to see. We do still have 1800 water, but there's still stuff we have to do to fix this. We'll get there. Just going to take a little bit of time. So let's put those stairs in place. Pop that right there. These guys should be able to come in here and build everything they need to build. Just get that hooked back up to the path so it's nice and easy. And I'm going to start with just 2 workers per clay pit so we can have those operating without, you know, overstressing everything else. I know this does say 19 vacancies, but it's not the end of the world. Remember, these primitive smelters are designed to work without workers, so it's really not that we have all of these vacancies, because you take 8 away immediately in this district alone, and then it's only 11, which is a whole lot easier to deal with, especially considering we're about to add 12 beds. Slowly, as time allows. But now we're bringing dirt in here to start building additional terrain, like I said, to try and corral the bad water a little bit better. And eventually, yes, we are going to blast this out and have nenophares go in here. You know how it goes. So, we now have all of this dynamite placed here. Remember, I'm blasting this all the way down so that we can expand our growing of stuff from, not the giant sequoia, from the tree nursery. And that is just what I've ended up doing here. So let's detonate this. And now all of this clean water irrigates here. Should be a whole lot easier than just dealing with this all the time. And now I can take this staircase out. Take that tree out, and then this will also need to be blasted down at some point, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Another thing that was brought to my attention is that we have all of these mechanical water pumps, which require planks to produce water. And we don't really have a good plank storage anywhere over here except right in this spot. So it would not be too terribly difficult to just pop in a simple medium pile for planks right here, so that these guys have somewhere that's just a little bit closer that the haulers can go to get planks so they can take care of making water. All sorts of fun. Now this is supposed to be firing. Let's turn it on. Fill this up so we don't have to worry about this ever again. I know this is going to take a little while to get over here. These trees have another 5 days. It's not going to take 5 days. We're already getting started here, making some gold. Already getting started here, putting in terrain blocks. All that dirt's got to go somewhere. And we've just gotten all this dynamite put in place. Now I need them to come and get these cabbages. And the assistant farmers obviously have nowhere else to put cabbage. They've got cabbage stuffed to the gills. Beavers don't even have gills, so I guess that maybe isn't a very large quantity of cabbage. But suffice to say, we need somewhere to put cabbage. Or, alternatively, depending on how fuzzy your math is, we're making too much cabbage, which you and I both know that's not the case. But regardless, the cabbage has to go. And we have enough stored where I'm not going to feel bad to get rid of these 3 just so we can start building the large farmhouse. But it's going to be a very good idea at some point in the future for us to build more robust, shall we say, food storage. that's going to be in our best interest. And there's not really a lot of great spots to do it at this exact point in time. But the way this is set up here, I think we can kind of, not necessarily solve the problem, but we can make it a little bit better. Just blast that out. Build a couple of medium warehouses over here. One for cabbage, if I can ever find the cabbage. There it goes. And then one for the green peas that go over here. Alright, this also needs to be unpaused. I really love to make more power so I don't have to worry about manually pausing these. Yes, I know there are mods that will do this. I am petrified of adding mods to the Waterbeavers because if it goes down, then it's going to be awful trying to fix it. So I really don't want to upset the apple cart. Like, I know it's the update 6 version, it's stable, whatever, and a lot of you guys are really good at troubleshooting, but I have an incredible fear of just accidentally killing this series because I made like the wrong mod edition and messed something up, and I do not want to restart this at this point. We got way too much else going on. So now we finally have water coming in here. Almost filled up our little lower pool here. It's going to very soon get high enough to come over here. These trees have another 4 days, so again, I'm not really that worried about it. And we have plenty of water over here. What are the builders in... Okay, obviously the builders are working on this. Let's deprioritize this so that they can actually get some other stuff taken care of before it gets to be a huge, huge, huge problem. We do have plank storage here. I'm going to prioritize this one so that we actually have it available. But for now, things are looking pretty good. I know there's a lot of other stuff that we could be doing over here. I've seen suggestions to flood additional areas with the clean water to grow additional rice, which is definitely something we can do. We also have all this space over here. If we were to dam this up and make clever utilization of those water cannons, we could very easily fill that and grow some additional rice over here. We do need more rice. However, right now we have 200 that has not been allocated for something else. Part of that is probably because I've got these fermentation barrels paused. But it doesn't have to remain paused. I can just unpause them, and then they'll get filled as they can. We can always use the half-fermented sake. That's definitely a thing. I did not think this was going to take this long. I'm going to speed this process along just because this is already empty and open this floodgate dam. Ideally, this just keeps it completely full and we don't have to worry about it. But I really don't want to have all these chestnut trees die off because I was like, well, that's not a problem because I said it wasn't a problem. That's a bad way to go through life. Acknowledge your problems and work to fix them. Unless they're insurmountable, in which case find someone to help you do it and then still acknowledge them and fix them. And now we have some water over here, so I don't really have to worry about this quite so much. I do need to keep the water flow going through this, so I'm going to shut this floodgate dam and let this guy do the rest of the work there. But at least we're safe, relatively speaking, for that. Alright, it is time for the large farmhouse. This will require a bunch of stuff to get built, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. And as you can see, it can reach a substantial portion of all of this stuff. Not everything, but it can reach enough that it's going to take a little bit of the load off of these farmers, specifically allow them to focus a little bit more on the green peas, which are a very important component in a lot of recipes that we kind of have bunched up for other reasons. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how this all goes down, but that, of course, will just take time. Now I've got 125 scrap metal-ish, which means we should be in a little bit better position on making these drill bits and other things, but like I've said, it really does just take time. So let's turn this back to metal instead of making medium cauldrons, and by making I mean not doing anything because we only had one and I didn't have storage for anything else. That's how did that beaver die? Old age. Okay, good. I just have to make sure we don't have any phantom, starvation occurring. Yeah, taking this down to one beaver was definitely the right move. How are we doing here? Yeah, scrap metal definitely needs help. Quartz needs a little bit more help, but we do have it. Just has to, these beavers working in here have to go run around all over the place. this is going to be fine. Remember, the Masters of Metallurgy is for the high-temperature foundry. That's going to be super useful for us. And I have seen people saying that I really need to get to the advanced sawmill, and I agree. But I think the foundry is just a little bit more important. I also see people saying I need to get to the abyss exploration. Like, buddy, we are so far away from that. Also, we have to have the sawmill first, so we can cut the giant logs in half. But we're not as far away as you might think. We'll get there. Just have to have a little bit more patience. How are we doing on this? We have the blueprints. That's the most important thing. Everything else can just come at a time that is convenient. So let's start making moves to, well, move the Lido. Easiest thing for us to do, I think, is just going to be to have this come off of this side here. The entrance is on this second block, so if I were to do this, we could very easily take this out, reroute the actual path that has to go over here around it, and then why can I not? There it is. It's in that thing. Come on. There we go. Pop that there. They'll still use it. And they're obviously not stupid enough to use it in bad water. I don't know. Maybe there's somebody who is, but that's going to allow us to start deepening this for use with the large farmhouse. And that is going to be a very, very important thing. So, away we go. Get that out of here. Get that out of here. Get that out of here. Out of here. Out of here. And this already has access to this entire thing because of this spiral staircase. I don't think that needs to change. As we build these, we might be able to expand this. That's something we'll get to when we get to it. For now, I need to just start increasing the depth here. Remember, it only has to be between like 1.01 and 2. 1.99 or whatever the depth is for the nenifars. So I think it's going to make the most sense. Remember, this is also, you know, for bathing purposes. Let's start taking this piece out, and then we'll put in a staircase, and then from there we can expand slowly. I know we only have a little bit of dynamite in this district, so we don't want to overload it too quickly. But eventually, all of this can be moved out. We'll just plant nenifars one at a time, and that will be what it will be. We can also have methane be created separately in this district with the help of a fermentation barrel that will not add additional beavers, and is something that can just be kind of set in motion and ignored. That will be best served, I believe, on one of these spaces that doesn't currently have anything going for it, which, hey, guess what's right here? And I might end up moving this at some point, but for right now this is fine. We'll just set that there. As a reminder, methane is used in the balloons. Having it here so it can be more easily filled with nenifars, I think, is a little bit more valuable than having it over here. Plus, eventually we're going to have gas tanks. Eventually. We'll get there. I guess I should prioritize this if I want them to actually do it. That might be helpful. But we don't need 8 beavers working here. I'm going to take this down. I guess they can have 2. 2's fine. This district now has a deficit of 18 jobs. Remember, 8 of those aren't really a deficit, so it's still 10. Now that we have all these beavers and we have 11 kits, let's fix this so we don't have a baby beaver problem. Let's see, 54, minimum 51. Let's go up to 60. And I'm going to, shall we say, export the kids. And we'll take a look here once that's taken care of. Total capacity, really? That's the number? Okay, well, I don't even have to read it out. Yes, we will have a minimum of 70 minus 1 beavers. And they will come in here and fulfill all of our jobs, more or less. Look at that. Now we only have a vacancy of 3, which is going to place some beavers in here. It's not the end of the world, because remember, I can just add them to the large farmhouse, which I think I will. It's much better than having them just sit idle in here all the time. But now we have Beaver Boom, and I can put in our first set of stairs. And at the bottom of those stairs, plant a single lotus. And then from there, we can go ahead and place every single thing left in here as dynamite. So all they have to do is just place whatever they can place, and then we'll detonate it. They will need, most likely, a path to go all the way back here to be able to reach the rest of this. We'll let it be what it's going to be and just move on from there. But we have planted our very first lotus here, and that is going to be what it is going to be. Before they get too crazy here, let's make these in the very end, the ones that would be out of range if this path went away. Actually, let's just completely remove all of them along the path so we don't end up having that kind of a problem. Let's just be a little smarter about this. I don't need to have this be super prioritized. I just didn't want them to blow up their own path while they're working on stuff. You know, the whole paint yourself into a corner thing. So that'll just be what it's going to be. We're making dynamite. It's not incredibly fast, but we are making it. So that is nice progress there. Let me just take another look at my list here. Let's see. So we did the gold panning in that district. We talked about narrowing the waterway. We also talked about why we can't really do that quite yet. We fixed the blueprint for the water wheel. We started fancifying the blueprints for the water wheel, which is over here. And I do have a fancy blueprint, which also means I should take this and start duplicating there. We'll let that take place for a little bit. We reduced the alchemist numbers. We did a little bit of pathing improvement with the smelters in the other district. We looked at blueprints on the ground. We verified we have extra ENS blueprints. Talked about why we can't make that yet. Put plank storage via the mechanical water pumps. We need to make another plank factory, and that's something that was been suggested by at least a few of you. The major problem with that is, one, it requires power. Two, it requires additional crude saw blades, which, yes, we do have 50 right now, but remember, it's going to be a constant consumption, and it's very easy. It might seem kind of dumb, but it's very easy for us to forget, or me, I guess, to forget that I have larger consumption of stuff and then ask, why is this broken later? So, we will need to find somewhere to place this. I do agree that we need one. But space in the river obviously is a premium. It doesn't have to go in the river. But the way the connection on this is, it is probably best served either in the river next to a water wheel or very close by. Now, we have this stub here, and this goes in this corner. So we could, if we moved a couple of things, place this right here. And I think long-term, that's probably the better option. I'm not going to say the best, but it's probably the better option. Because if I did this, then that would allow us to have a reason to stack pile storage here. So let's switch this into coal mode, empty this, because we're going to have to reroute pathing, and then we can start building a rudimentary sawmill over here. We do have a sawmill on this side that is currently full of planks, which, what are you doing with all those planks? Why are you blah, 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 blah? What? We need to be able to produce planks more quickly. Doesn't mean we need the capacity right now, but we need to be able to replenish that, and we need to be able to have more storage, because planks are really, really, really important. Not just for the mechanized water pumps, which do, of course, run on these, but to take a look at our consumption. We go all the way down here to planks. If I can find them. There's 12 buildings that use them. 9 of these. Then we also have the Mechanics Lodge making gears, and then we have the Architects Lodge making scaffoldings. That's not the only buildings that use these. This is the only ones we're using right now. So, other stuff just chews through supplies, which I'm failing to find examples by pointing at. But I know there's more stuff, like, just trust me on this. Why can I not find... Okay, here it is. It's 30 planks for every one of these Clockwork robotic controllers. And those are required to build the Clockwork farms and their components and some other stuff. There's just so many things that consume this. I don't know why I can't find... why can't I find... I had this in my mind before. I know you have to use them to make the treated planks, and that's a whole other can of worms, but... Which one of these? Okay, sound off in the comments, like, what choose through planks, because... literally choose, get it? Because I know there was something that just uses abominable quantities of this stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm just wrong, and maybe whoever told me that I needed to build another one of these rudimentary sawmills is also wrong. So I don't know. Maybe we'll build it and keep it paused for right now, but we definitely need to have one. That I will agree with. So this gets routed here. This gets taken out, and then this rudimentary sawmill can go right here. This is a second story entrance, so what we can and probably should do is have this connected over here. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that. Turn this into a large industrial pile. Another one here that we can use for coal and iron. And then, because we have ladders, log storage, and plank storage. And why would we do it that way? Because we can. This is... Why can't I remember where these things go? That can go, I suppose, right here would make the most sense. Then pop in a platform there. That gets put there, and then something else can go in that exact spot. But then on top of this, we can put a couple more of those guys. Why am I not putting those in front of the door so I don't block anything else later? That goes there, that goes there. That gives them something to chew on for a little bit of time. Also, we definitely need more plank storage, need to have more planks. So on and so forth. You know how it goes. Hey, guess what? This is empty of dirt now because I think most of our dirt is going to actually make terrain. Oh, cool. They put in 2 of those, so that's good progress. That's looking okay. How are we doing over here? I know I deprioritized this. That's important. Let's have them focus on detonating this. I definitely highlighted the wrong thing earlier, but we can have more than one Lotus taken care of there. Did they finally get all of this that they can get? Well, I'm going to pause this at the very least. We can have this beaver go do something else. Still have 34 vacancies. 21 incapacitated, so it definitely could be worse. Remember that we have a lot of buildings here that do not have to be occupied, and thus right now are probably doing pretty okay. So that just about covers everything that I took from the comments. Obviously not every problem that was discussed. It was something that I took notes down for to address in this video, but we will slowly make our way through to take care of all of this stuff. You know, it kind of feels like this isn't going to be enough water to sustain this with pumps. So I will reopen this, and maybe we'll have to think about putting another one of these pumps in or figure something else out. There's just so many things that have got to be taken care of. At least we have scrap metal. They are definitely slow on bringing this in, but again, there are just 2 of them. So now I need to figure out a way to reallocate labor a little bit more effectively. I mean, rice-wise, we still have a little bit left over, but in theory, we're making more of this half-fermented sake. It's just a process. You know how it goes. So I've got how many of these large water wheels blueprints? I got 2. Okay, they're slowly doing this. Still can't believe I have 32 of these, although they don't really have a cost, but that was kind of dumb of me to do that. Okay, oversized water pump 5. Fancy blueprint 16. We're not going to need that many. The super fertilizing irrigation tower bath. How could I forget? This is a great building. And I'm honestly kind of surprised I hadn't used it yet. But I remembered that the reason I gave a long time ago was I did not trust that it would be able to support stuff because of the whole it doesn't repel contamination thing. But now for areas like this, that is no longer a concern because the bad water only gets to here. So this irrigation lodge keeps this nice and clean and protects this bit from contamination here. This irrigation lodge that I failed to click on, this one only protects this upper level. So there's a little bit right here because we peel this back. Bad water goes all the way through to this corner. There's a little bit here. If I were to replace this with a super fertilizing irrigation tower bath, that this would become polluted. However, what the super fertilizing irrigation tower bath does is also serves as a booster for crop growth. And what we're growing here is mostly sunflower seeds. What are we constantly out of? If you guess sunflower seeds, you win the grand prize. So, while we may not want to get rid of this irrigation lodge in this exact location right now, we definitely could stand to have a super fertilizing irrigation tower bath. It's just fun to say. Somewhere over here. And this is going to have some space cleared, but you can get an idea, if I can minimize all this other stuff. See like how big of a range this is on the same level for irrigation? That's a lot. That is a tremendous quantity of ground that can be covered. And this entire bottom area here could be irrigated, not protected from bad water, mind you, but could be irrigated with one of these. So, seems like a pretty good no-brainer to me here, honestly, to just pop this guy maybe in this spot here. The path can go under it. You just can't have a building under it or on top of it or whatever. There's some sort of weird thing about that. But I'm going to unlock this and I guess turn this back on. What did I say it was going to be like right around here? This building does have stilts, and it has that centerpiece that must be contacting the ground, but everything else can go underneath it. So if I just take out, for the sake of argument, a single cabbage right here, that's going to give me somewhere to put the super fertilizing irrigation tower bath. The next problem is going to be, how in the world do we get beavers into it? Well, the boring answer is ladder. And that is probably what we're going to have to do, at least for right now. But getting the boost on all of these sunflowers is going to be tremendously helpful in the best possible way. Let's get this prioritized. I say at the very end of the workday. But that is going to be just so good. Yeah, there you go. Let's bring this in here. And then we need to locate this in a position that I can easily build a ladder to, which for right now seems to be about right here. Also, it can function without workers, and it is a Lido, which you might have noticed we don't have enough to take care of 415 beavers. The only downside is it consumes 36 water per day, but this also consumes like a third of that, but it doesn't have the bonus of crop growth. So, you know, it's it doesn't fully balance out, but it kind of does if you have enough water production, which I think at this exact moment in time we do. Now, super fertilizing irrigation tower bath situation before we unpause. I was like 99% sure I had a bunch of these. 46 of those. Ooh. Okay, yeah, let's keep that paused. I made a mistake. You know, that's never ever happened. Let's change both of these over to the super fertilizing irrigation ones. The reason this has to be paused is because if we use the fancy blueprint without it already being duplicated, we have to research it again. If the building's paused, they're not going to put it in there. So there you go. Instead, while this is happening, we can have them work on putting in the 4 ladders required to get up here. And because of the magic of platforms and overhangs and all that nonsense, we can do some pretty stupid stuff, like objectively broken. But that's part of the fun, right? Remember that the sunflowers do have a limit that they have to be able to access stuff. So, if I put an overhang walkway here, then I can put a small storage on it. If I put a corner overhang walkway here, if I have this rotated correctly, come on. There we go. I put this guy in, then I can put multiple buildings on this. And it's only 200 science. So if I do that, and then I do the skewer platform, come on. Come on. Let me click on this. Oh, did this get patched? Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay. Come on. Come on. Oh, come on. You know you want to do it. You know you want to let me do this. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Oh, that works, but not this. Okay. So, this used to work, and I guess I should have read the text because this has since been patched. But regardless, the corner walkway here is going to be valuable for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to allow us to put a small plank tank up here. That's going to be valuable for our super fertilizing irrigation tower bath, and will give us one of these squares back for planting stuff. Two, this corner thing that isn't going to be accessible is going to be a perfect place to put a well-being item that has a passive effect, like a piece of roofing. Very easy, and every beaver that comes to this is going to get that benefit. And every beaver that walks underneath it's going to get that benefit. And then on this side right here, don't forget this is only doing regular irrigation. So wait a minute, if it's only doing regular irrigation and not doing any repulsion, then this can go away. Oh yeah, then we're going to get some space back. Okay. Oh, I love to see that. I love to see that. We do have to make sure that this is actually fancifying. I do see there's one fancy blueprint here that should be brought over here to get duplicated. We have the paper, we have the pencil sets. There we go. Okay, we'll let that run for a little bit longer. All right, day 10. How are we feeling? How we doing over here with our explosions? B for boom. And now I've got more space to plant some nenifars. These guys here are doing good work. We've got 7 vacancies now, which remember means we actually have -1 vacancies. And we have 4 incapacitated beavers, so we technically have -5. We've got 5 of these guys in the log gnawing station making planks. We don't need these guys to be making planks. Smarter move is to be making screw press axles. But that requires sawdust, which we're not producing. So we would have to import that from... Oh, we definitely don't have enough sawdust. Okay, we need to switch these guys that are using that back to the slow recipe. That is okay, there's only one of those. Alright, okay, you don't need to be making planks. Because we definitely have enough planks. I guess, see, the sawdust is such a weird thing to try to stay on top of. I guess this just making sawdust is going to have to be what it's going to have to be. Okay. Now, fancy blueprints. I see 5 oversized water pumps. Where's my fancy... Large farmhouse, mechanical drill, large water wheel, floodgate dam. ENS fancy beaver... we haven't built a beaver washing machine yet. That's a fun building. You guys are going to love that if you haven't seen that before. So, they have 0 here. Is that because they were over... Okay, good. They are still being converted. We'll keep an eye on that. So much stuff left to do. Like it is genuinely very hard to keep up, but we're doing good work here. Getting these guys in where they can reasonably get in. And we do have this working here. How many nenifars? We got 3. Yeah, that needs to be super deprioritized. Guess it's not really that big of a deal. Maybe that should be prioritized. There we go. Okay. Baby steps, folks. Baby steps. Uh-oh, we're not making enough power. And they've got both of these things going all the time. Well, this is still down, so I guess that's alright. We've already kind of established this is not enough power. Anyway, I know. I'm just going to pause this so we can get a little bit of power consumption reduced. Mechanized water pumps. Long term, not really the best strategy. I also need to figure out some sort of solution here. I know we were going to talk about putting levees on this side. Maybe some other irrigation. We'll get there. Is this at least finished yet? Okay, I see 5 regular ones. And 0 fancy ones. Yeah, so this just has to get brought over. I know these guys are probably... Yeah, they're all the way off. This pathing is awful in here. Okay, there we go. Now this... Okay, 11% is 11%. But we know we're going to have enough fancy blueprints once this is taken care of. At that point, as soon as we have more than one, I guess I'll wait for 2 or 3, we can unpause the super fertilizing irrigation tower bath and get this thing built. And then have a big boost to our sunflower production. That's going to be tremendously helpful. And I did just see that our episode timer has gone over the hour mark. So we will start wrapping this up soon. Gotten a lot of good stuff done today. Maybe not like monumental tasks, but you'll notice our scrap metal number is up. Water storage is basically full again. We're going to have even more of that built. And that was something somebody wanted me to do over here, is build another giant buried tank. We will get there in due time. But now this is the moment for the super fertilizing irrigation tower bath. This here, okay, the fancy one just went in. But that's fine because this one's almost done. Alright, now I can unpause. Because I know we have extras. Good stuff. Good stuff. They can actually build this now. We do have the rest of the materials, thankfully. It is not going to be a tremendous annoyance to get that taken care of. And since this is going to irrigate just so much more, we can continue blasting this out without worry of contamination. We just have to have dynamite, which you already know. Gotta have nitroglycerin. Nitroglycerin, of course, being made in this guy right here, which is waiting on saltpeter. And I actually don't remember if we're making any. So I know that comes out of the small mine, and I do have one here. Okay, we are making some. And mountain salt. I guess this is just one of those things where I could put a couple more beavers in here and probably be in better shape. But we're still kind of, trying to figure out labor allocations. Where's the district center? Here it is. Yeah, see, this 28 vacancies is not ideal, but remember that we do have a lot of buildings that don't require workers, so it's actually much less. And we do have 14 incapacitated beavers, which I'm kind of surprised the minor burns are not worse than they are. So it ended up being a good thing that we have only one alchemist working on making balm, because that is saving us some of these other materials. And that is always a good thing. Yeah, they're harvesting green peas too. Oh, hey, this is ready. This is where I was going to put another, not a large warehouse, I don't have room for that. Medium warehouse for the green peas. That will give, in this district, storage for cabbages in the amount of 252, and green peas in the amount of, well, I guess 432 once this other one is finished. That's going to help a lot. I cannot build a large one here because I can't get rid of this little wood X here because that is part of the mechanical drill. There's a method to the madness. Usually. Meanwhile, at the ENS, we've gotten not very much further because there's so few workers, well, working here. But I still feel very good about progress in that regard. It's going to get a little bit better once... Oh, this is operating? Good. Oh, there's so much water in here, too. Utilize potential 30.3%. We're going to fix that. we are going to fix that. So, irrigation lodge, bye-bye, see ya. Now we have all this extra space. And if we kind of clean up our pathing here, we can get even more. Now how much? 35, 32, 17 to 92. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to unplant this one. Because that 93% on 6.6 days or whatever is realistically okay for us to wait. Now, does this actually net us a gain in space? No, not really. But that does. Put that in here. Now this says 96. And by the time it's tomorrow, this will say 100 or very, very close to it. So let's start planting sunflowers here and here. And then, because this is now irrigated space, we can blast this out. Because this is no longer poisoned, we can start the process of reclaiming some of this space as well. But that, of course, will just take time. And we have a 3-day drought approaching, so this is actually a really good time for us to end this episode just as soon as this is taken care of. And look at that. We got beavers recreating. Oh yeah, severely burned at your job, won't heal without treatment. We're working on it, man. Just you gotta throw me a bone here. So now I have to have somewhere to put all of this sunflower seed stuff. They should be able to grab this pretty soon without too much weeping or gnashing of teeth. Should I be that worried about a single 3 unit of sunflower seeds? No. But I'm going to anyway, so we can just move on. Regarding the usage of space here and how this has been set up, I do think that we should take a look at how much pollution is going to extend through this area from the bad water here, and then whenever we figure out what that range is, get rid of as much terrain here as possible, because this is never going to be polluted here, right? Because we solved that problem a long time ago. If we blast this down, then this sunflower seed area is going to be the same level as this sunflower seed area, and this super fertilizing irrigation tower bath is going to be able to irrigate all of this. That's going to be really, really good. So I'm going to do possibly a dumb thing, and I'm going to unmark all of this. Remember, this is still a reservoir currently. I'm going to unmark all of this that I can without causing a flood, and then we will remove as much of this as possible. Keep in mind that this irrigation tower, lodge, whatever, is only going to affect whatever is on its current level. So by clicking on this, we can actually get a really good idea that that can also be removed with minimal consequence. And this is also going to help us improve pathing, since we will be able to, from the ladder, put in a very, 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 very long suspension bridge. If I can... Ah, no, that one has 2. Okay. Well, yeah, we can do something. We can do something. I forgot that the longer ones have these... okay, the 4 isn't like that. The 5 and the 6 have this double anchor thing. But the 4 long could go right on top of here, and then get connected to another tower and not take up a ton of farm space. Is that dumb? Maybe just a little bit. Is it cool? Yeah. I think it's cool. So, eventually, all of this path is going to go away, and it's not going to be a problem. But you already know. I don't even have to say it. This tall and narrow lodge and these 2 pit and ladder lodges are also going to be able to go away because they're not keeping bad water out anymore. This whole area can be redone. That's a project for next time, because now it is time for us to end this episode before we get to this drought. I'm so glad you guys are still liking these videos, still watching, supporting them. You know, it's really, and I don't just say this because, oh, I have to thank the Beard Boosters. It genuinely is not possible to do it without their support. Most people on this platform are not uploading hour to hour and a half videos for a 50, 60, 70, 80 episode series of this, because the audience really isn't there for the big channels to do this. But because of the unique position in which I find myself and the types of stuff that you guys like to watch and say you like to watch and continue to support, we're able to do this with the help of those folks who subsidize everything and make it so I don't have to go seek out sponsorships for stuff that is completely unrelated to playing video games and having a good time. And that's important to me. I like just the authentic, more personal interaction we get to have here, where I get to read all your comments and you get to make suggestions that improve or fix or do something to make this better. That's community. That's important to me, and I hope it's important to you. But that's going to be it for this one. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, whatever it is you're doing. Stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you back soon for more beavers. Take care, friends. Bye-bye.